Hey man,
So,
let's try this again.
oh yeah, round two.
But yeah, we'll just treat it like nothing happened yesterday. So rather than just for everyone listening, rather than me kind of giving an introduction for you, I think it's probably better we talk about everything in chronological order. I feel like might help get a couple messages across a little bit more and just have people understand your volleyball career and your time at Pac-Man a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
The first thing I guess we can start off with is how'd you get introduced to the sport?
I got introduced because I was a pretty athletic kid when I was younger, and I wanted to do everything. And there's elementary school junior volleyball tryouts in grade three, and I decided to go. I might as well try it. And since my dad heard of it, and he was a big volleyball guy, he wanted to get me into it right away. So he started training me,
Right.
and I ended up making the team.
Right. And what was your first how did you hear about Pac-Man? What made you decide to go try out for Pac-Man?
Well, funny story. I actually tried out for two other teams. No, three other teams first. Interclub for 13U, Phoenix 15U, and Galaxy 15U. I
Hmm.
made the Phoenix and Galaxy teams, but both teams folded because they didn't have enough players.
Right.
And then for Interclub, I actually didn't make the team because I didn't pay the $10 entry fee for the tryout, and
Nice.
for like, yeah, you're not worth it. And I didn't think I was gonna go and play volleyball. And then my dad found a Pac-Man online, and he's like, "Hey, I spoke to the coach. You're allowed to go to the second tryout." And I said, "Sure, why not?" And ended up going and having a great time.
Right. And at that time, I guess your older brother Andrew would have started playing at the same time too, right?
Yeah, he was.
And did that maybe kind of help you grow as a player, just having that little competitive rivalry at home?
Yeah, it did for sure because he was definitely progressing in a higher age group. So he was a lot better in terms of volleyball skill wise.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to go and achieve that always. And I'd always pop into some of his practices because we had like different dates alternating.
Right.
So I'd always practice with like I think it was his 16U team every now and then,
Right.
just so I can get some extra touches.
Right. And how did because a lot of the guys, right, that you played with in 13, you went to school together, right? They all went to David Leader.
Yeah.
How was that experience? What was your first kind of encounter with them? What was your how did you first meet them?
Well, I first met them because I went into the tryout not knowing like anyone because no one played volleyball back in 13U because it was like the first year they were ever doing it.
Yeah.
And I saw two guys, Sakib and Carmen, in the corner just peppering together, and they invited me over to join them because I
Hmm.
didn't know anyone, and I had a great time. They brought me in like I was from David Leader, which was great, and they introduced me to their whole entire friend group, which helped me get used to everyone there so quickly.
Right. And moving kind of down the ropes, right, through 13, you guys ended up winning 13 provincials.
Yeah, we did.
So what was the feeling like to, again, first year playing club? What was it like to win right away?
It was honestly exhilarating because that was the first 13 provincials ever,
Hmm.
and that was the first time I've ever won at anything on like a provincial scale. So this was definitely huge for me and was huge for our whole entire team because
Yeah.
we were just so dominant throughout the whole season. And I just felt like it was really well earned for us to just get the final title at the end of the year.
Right. And then fast forwarding then to when you started playing beach, right? You started playing beach with Mark,
Yeah.
who was your teammate in indoor. Were you guys close throughout the indoor season or no?
Yeah, I felt like we were pretty close because we were co-captains the whole year.
Hmm.
So I felt like it would just work out really well because I didn't know who I should play beach with. But
Right.
then our head coach Kelly Smith told my dad, "Hey, Mark's the other left side. He has a great jump, a great block. Him and Peter should definitely team up." And we ended up teaming up and never lost a set all the way up till 15U.
Yeah. And you guys ended up winning 13 beach provincials as well. So
Mhm.
going your first year, right, of club, winning 13 indoor provincials and then beach provincials as well, that must have felt good, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because I never thought I would be able to go and achieve something like that again, which I ended up doing.
Hmm.
But it was so huge because it just proved that I'm not just an indoor player, but beach is definitely like a good, viable option and
For sure.
something that I can just thrive in as well.
And with your first season playing beach, I guess you would have met quite a few new people, right? Just from other teams and stuff as well.
Yeah, that was like the first year I actually started like interacting with guys from other teams, like from Storm, Interclub, and like Markham Stingers,
Right,
because indoor you didn't really have like that time to talk to people, but for beach there's a lot of downtime,
right,
so it's more like the social aspect of volleyball, which I really liked.
right. And then progressing on to your time in 14U, you guys came third at provincials, right? That
Yeah,
was. and that was because of food poisoning.
Yeah. I
Um,
went to Eastside Mario's the night before, had some meatballs that weren't cooked well, and I was just up all night with food poisoning. It was not fun.
right. And being a leader for your team, right, and being someone that your team relied on throughout that season, did you feel like you were letting them down?
Big time, yeah, because that was the first time I was like solely captain, and I just felt like it was my responsibility to like be that voice to lead everyone through like every game, every set, and especially since it was fair play and I would alternate like usually doing double sets together because
Yeah.
we didn't have like that full lineup.
Mhm.
I just felt like the whole entire team was just missing a part, which was my fault solely because I just wasn't fully prepared because of food poisoning.
Right. And you were there, right, on the last day of provincials? You were still there to watch?
Yeah, I played a little bit, but after a couple of dives, I felt like I was going to throw up again, so
Right.
I had to sit out.
Right. And then moving on to that summer, you ended up playing beach again with Mark, right? Where you guys had a successful season and ended up winning 14U
Beach provincials
14U
again.
provincials, right?
Yeah.
How was again, right? So to go back to back in beach is obviously not an easy thing to do, and just to go back to back to win provincials isn't easy. So, did you feel like you and Mark maybe grew as a pairing that season?
Yeah, I think we did for sure because now it wasn't as much learning the game because that was like our full year, like our first year playing beach. This is our second year, so it was more like perfecting what skills we had and slowly learning more and more, which I think we had that advantage with,
Mm-hmm.
considering that I was also doing all like the 18 practices on top of it, so I was learning from them as well.
Right. And that year you played your first ever nationals too, right?
Yeah,
And that was with Cole.
yeah, correct. Cool.
And playing with Cole, right? That was maybe your first time you ever really probably got to know him really well. Um,
Yeah.
did you ever think that he would eventually become one of your indoor teammates at that time?
I thought he would just because our Pac-Man team was so dominant. I felt like people are like attracted to like great teams so that they can always do well. So I felt maybe later down the road he would come, but I just wasn't sure when.
Right. And looking back at that nationals, right? So your first ever nationals, and you're playing a year up. Was there a lot of nerves and jitters that kind of first game?
I wasn't too nervous just because I was so used to playing with everyone that was like 16, 17, 18U. So this was just 1 year above me, so I didn't think of it too much. And I knew I had the skills to win and I had the skills to actually go and perform well and compete with these guys.
Right.
I just had to go and like play through it and just not think of the age group.
Right. And what was maybe one big takeaway you were able to take away from that first nationals?
The biggest thing was that I was not the biggest fish. I may be like the biggest fish in my age group, but there's always guys that are going to be bigger, better, more skilled than me upper years.
Right.
I just always have to go and look to where they are and surpass it.
Right. And moving along to 15U. 15U, you guys had a similar team, right? To as you guys did in 14U, and that
Yeah,
was when Storm started to get good, right?
yeah.
And that's when they really started to pick up. So going into that first tournament, did you guys expect them to be good?
Yeah, definitely for sure because they had a lot of players that were physically superior than guys on our team.
Yeah.
Because I remember that's when like Eric Sisna and Duncan Clark started growing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So they had that clear height advantage. But and they actually won a couple of tournaments over us, which we were surprised about.
Right.
But it is what it is, and yeah,
And then going into provincials, right? You guys had won some finals. They had won some finals. Was there a little bit of nerves being matched up with them in provincial finals?
in 15U we didn't make the provincial finals.
Oh, you guys came third again.
No, that was quarters to Georgetown.
Right, right. So, right, yeah, I forgot about that. But then, so in 15U, right, that quarterfinals, and what happened?
That was just a really rough game because we came in there very confident, and Georgetown didn't have a bunch of practices, so like we were surprised that they were performing so well. We underestimated them,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up losing to them in the third set, which we were all surprised about, and it was a really big upset. But we just had to go and look past that because nationals was coming along the line.
Right. And what was something that Kelly said to you guys that maybe helped you guys prepare for nationals? after that loss?
I think the biggest thing that resonated in me is that we were lost and we were all so down because we've never lost so early in the tournament, especially provincials.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember he took out his briefcase, took out his national medal from years before, and he said, "This is what we're aiming for. It doesn't matter what provincials is. Nationals is where we want to go and win. This is
Right.
what we have to strive for." And ever since he did that, our team practiced so hard just so that we could get back on top.
Right. And you guys ended up, your nationals was at Rim Park as well that year, correct?
Yes, it was.
So walking into that gym, right, on that last day, right, you're playing your quarter semis finals. Were you guys, did it kind of bring back like a little bit of bad memories to play on that court that you guys had lost to at Georgetown?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think we were all just so focused on us having that gold medal in nationals
Mm-hmm.
that we needed it. We didn't care what happened. And
Right.
then also, that was the time because on the first day of nationals, I actually fractured my ankle.
Oh, okay.
Or no, I re-sprained / fractured an ankle, which I did just before.
Right.
So I was like just coming off like an injury from like 2 days before, and my ankle was completely swollen where I couldn't move it.
Right.
But all I wanted was that gold medal, so I ended up playing through it until it felt good.
Right. And looking onto that finals, right? You guys got matched up with Storm, and they ended up winning provincials in 15U, right?
Yes, they did.
So to play the guys that won provincials and a team that you guys had been back and forth with all year, was that kind of like the start of maybe like your team's rivalries?
I think so for sure because we knew that they were like definitely big competitors to us. We knew that we were on top, but we also knew that they're not far behind.
Yeah.
If we threw up a couple points here and there, they could definitely come up and take that medal away from us.
Right. And that almost happened, right? Because in the third set, you guys were down 13-9.
Yeah.
In the third, what was going through your mind during that scoreline?
Honestly, I was super worried because that's when our middle Luca decided to start spin serving out of nowhere.
Right.
And so he decided to pull it out, and it ended up working really well. And I wasn't sure if we were going to win or lose. All I wanted to do was score until the last ball hits the ground,
Right.
which we ended up doing. And I remember Sebastian Martin Demers came up in the clutch here and just rifled 2 balls to their setter, Craig,
Right.
and just scored both of them for game
And
point.
scored both of them.
Yeah.
Right. And to win your first national championship, right, especially I find it feels nice, right, to always win an indoor, right, just with your group of teammates. What were the feelings like?
It was exhilarating because that was the first time anything national-wide has actually happened to us.
Right.
And we realized we're a national competing team. We could be one of the best in the country if we put our minds to it.
Right. And fast forwarding to beach, right, you played beach with Mark that summer.
Mark and Cole.
Mark and Cole, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you, again, right, you ended up winning provincials, I believe, with Mark.
It was with Cole that season.
With Cole that season, okay. So you ended up winning provincials with Cole that season, right? So you guys spent another summer, right, playing with one another.
Yeah.
Again, right, did you slowly start to feel a little bit more that he was going to come to the club?
Yeah, because he was definitely getting interested in it because I think his interclub team that he was playing with his brother was going to die off because people were spreading out everywhere.
Right.
So Pac-Man was becoming more and more of a reality for him.
Right. And you guys won provincials, right? So to go three-peat again, I'm sure would have felt really good.
Yeah, it did.
But I'm sure for you, something that you probably had your eye on a little bit more was probably winning a national championship, right?
Yeah, it was because I haven't won yet.
Right. And you guys were 15U, you guys played up playing 16U nationals,
Yeah,
correct?
because there's no actual nationals for our age group because not enough people signed up.
Yeah.
And we were forced to go and play Europe.
Right. And given what happened the year before playing nationals with Cole, do you think you were maybe better prepared for the competition?
I think so for sure because we were both more physically defined, which I think we were lacking a lot from before.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also a lot more used to the net height that we would be playing on.
Right.
So I think that we definitely had like a good chance of ranking pretty high in that tournament going into it.
Right. And your semifinals, you guys played against Avi and Sod, right?
Yeah.
2 guys who you've practiced with basically since you came to the club.
Yeah.
Was there a little bit of nerves before that game just because they were older and they've had a lot of success playing beach?
I think there definitely was, just because I've always looked as them as like the higher beach players, superior ones to me, because during all the drills, all the practices, they were always the one to beat, but no team could defeat them
Hmm.
during our practices. So to actually face them in the semifinals, it was definitely nerve-wracking.
Right. And ultimately, you guys went on to win nationals, you and Cole. Uh,
Yeah,
and not only was that your first beach national championship, but you were able to do it playing a year up. Did that?
yeah,
Do you think that maybe made it feel a little bit better knowing that you were playing up?
yeah. I think it did, because that definitely put us in the tier that we could definitely go and take other competitions from year up and definitely compete with them and be one of the best.
Right. And then your 16U year for indoor, you guys got a lot of new guys, right?
We got a couple, yeah.
Yeah, you guys got a couple, and I think there was higher expectations going into that 16U season because of the disappointment at provincials, right, the year before.
I think the provincials wasn't the issue. It was just the fact that we won nationals. We wanted to go and keep that title, and we knew that
Right.
Storm wanted to get it very badly.
Right.
So it's just that feeling that, oh, they're right up our alley. They're coming for us. We have to be ahead.
Right. And you guys ended up winning provincials, right? Where you guys played, I think, Storm in the provincial finals. It was.
Yeah.
So again, right, another matchup with them in the finals. This year, you guys have a couple new guys. Did that help to your advantage?
I think so for sure, because we just acquired Nick Basilio in the middle,
Yeah,
which I think
Nick's
helped.
actually in here right now too.
I know, I just saw. And I think that helped us a lot, just because we lost a middle from the year before. And
Right.
Nick was greatly coordinated, and he could score almost every single time. So that
Hmm.
helped to our advantage so much.
Right. And one thing that's not talked about a lot from your 16U season is you guys came second at 17U national or provincial, sorry.
Yeah, we did.
Right. What was that like? Like, do you guys feel like just being underdogs, no one really expected you guys to do as well as you did, and that's why you guys were able to perform?
I think that was partly the reason. People knew that we were a team that was good, but they were thinking that we were a team that, oh, they would be in Division One but lose out in quarters.
Right.
But I think for us, we didn't care. There's no pressure on us whatsoever. So we knew, hey, if we make it to the finals, we make it to the finals. If we lose in quarters, we lose in quarters.
Right.
And we ended up just going all out, not a thought in the world on what other people thought
Right.
about us. And we ended up making it to the finals.
Right. And then that finals, right? You guys were playing against a good team. You guys played against a Durham attack team who had won
Yeah.
kind of like quite a few years in a row. Was there
Yeah.
nerves going into that game just because you might have seen them play in provincial finals in prior years?
Yeah, there definitely was, because they were the team that was constantly beating the Pac-Man team that was a year older than us.
Right.
So we didn't know if we could take them or not. And in the first set, we absolutely got like blown out, just because we didn't know what to expect, and we just weren't mentally ready for what they were ready to give us.
Right. And nationals in 16, you guys ended up going on to win, right?
Yeah, we did.
Where you guys played Storm again.
Yeah.
And again, right? So second time you've beaten them that season in a major competition. Did you guys feel like really good going into that national finals because you guys had already beaten them at provincials?
I think we did, yeah, because we knew what we were doing. We knew what skills we had. We knew what they couldn't do. And we just capitalized on those over and over and over again until we won nationals.
Right. And one thing I missed out on was you played provincial team at 15U, right? And you ended up playing a year up.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys on the 16U team. But then this 16U year, you were able to play on the 17U provincial team, right? That
Yeah.
summer as well.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like to be able to represent your province, but not only represent your province, but do it a year up again?
I think it was pretty good, because when I was in 15U playing 16U, that was huge for me because it was my first provincial team, but
Right.
there's two teams. But for 17U, there's only one team. So I knew like I really had to go and strap down to make this team.
Right.
And luckily I did, and I was able to prove myself as a libero, make it as a libero, then transition to a starting left side during
Right.
the actual tournament.
And was there one thing that you really took away from that tournament?
I think the biggest thing, it was my first like actual big international tournament, because
Yeah.
we went down to Fort Lauderdale to play,
Yeah.
and we just saw like all the competition that was there, and just put a perspective on like where Canada is and Ontario is in terms of volleyball compared to other like countries like the US, and just realized, oh, we just have to train this much harder because there's more competition outside of Ontario, outside of Canada.
Right. And that 16 year, who'd you play beach with that year?
I played with Trent.
You played with Trent, and you guys won. You guys came third at provincials. I remember that.
Yeah.
I do remember that because I was there watching. And there's one memory I had from that specifically was Harjas and I were in your pool, right, for pool play. And I think we were playing Zach and Luke.
Yeah.
From LVC. And I think everyone at the tournament thought, oh, it's going to be an easy game for Zach and Luke, right?
Yeah.
And I remember that whole game. You were probably like our number one fan. Like you were happier that we won the game than I think we were.
Yeah.
Right. Where does that come? Like, where did that come from?
That just came from like the whole aspect of like that Pac-Man family that's been instilled on us since 13U. Because we train with upper age groups, we train with lower age groups. Because everyone just wants to see a person from Pac-Man thrive, especially one of our own.
Yeah.
So when I saw that you and Harjaz were facing such a good team, I just wanted you guys to go all the way up the ranks, beat them, and then eventually, hopefully, make it to the finals.
Yeah.
And
it didn't happen, but that was the goal.
Yeah, but just to see you guys like progress and win, especially playing year up, that's what really got me excited. Just seeing another guy from Pac-Man win.
For sure. And that was your first year, right? That you played your age for beach and didn't win provincials.
Yeah.
Did that maybe kind of motivate you to work a lot harder going into nationals?
Yeah, it did, because it made me realize I'm not as far ahead as I thought I was anymore. Things are going to be a lot closer, and you're going to have to train a lot harder to get back on top.
Right. And moving on to nationals, you and Trent ended up winning nationals, right? And I think like that the course in Ottawa ended up being flooded or something, right? Like it wasn't a good experience. But to be able to win another national title, and this time with Cole's twin brother, right?
Yeah.
I guess like did it feel the same? Did it feel just as good?
This felt more as something that I needed to do because I won 16U the year before, and this time 16U is my actual age group. I felt like I had to prove to everyone I deserve this title. I got it before. Last year wasn't just a fluke. Right. This year is for sure.
Right. And 17U, we'll fast forward a little bit. We'll talk about provincials a little bit, right? So you guys lost, I think, 2 guys, right? Because that year Nick stopped playing, and then Sakib stopped playing as well.
Yeah.
In 17U. So obviously those were hard losses for the team, especially because those were like guys that were really close with the team, right?
Yeah, and 2 critical assets to the starting lineup.
For sure. And you guys ended up playing Storm in another provincial final, right? And,
yeah.
That 17U year, they had a lot of new guys on that team, right?
Yeah, they had a lot of 18Us playing down to their 17U teams just because they had a little bit of a late birthday.
Yeah. And because of all those new additions, were you guys a little nervous going into the season, like knowing that they were going to have a good team and be there to compete?
Honestly, not really. We knew that we still had our strengths. This was still going to be a competition. Nothing in volleyball is going to be easy. Right. We were going to have to go all the way and try as hard as we could.
Right. And you know what? We'll fast forward through nationals there. But that summer then, right, you did TMO, and this time was your first time actually playing provincial team for your own age.
Yeah.
And obviously you would have known a lot of the guys from beach beforehand, but was there a lot of guys that you met like for like the first time or got to really know for the first time while you were down there?
Yeah, there definitely was, because there's still a lot of guys that do play beach volleyball, but there's a lot of guys that don't, and they're just strictly indoor players.
Right.
So I got to meet a bunch of new guys that ended up playing university, which I still see to this day, and I'm still friends with.
Right. And another experience I have, right, from when you were down there is I was down there for 16U camp. And I remember you talked a lot to a lot of the guys from my team, right, that were at that camp, because we had about like 6 or 7 guys that were at camp, and you spent a lot of time talking to the guys that you knew well. I guess that kind of relates back to the Pizza Packing family, right?
Yeah.
And I guess like for you, you just wanted to see all of us succeed and make the team, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to see as many Pac-Man kids on the provincial team as possible because I knew that almost all of them deserved it.
For sure. And that 17U year, who'd you play beach with?
I played it with
Jackson.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe you guys won provincials that year pretty easily, right?
Yeah, we did.
I think it was pretty easily. And then nationals, you guys went on to win as well, correct?
Yeah.
So what was it like to come back, right? You came third at provincials the year before, but then you were able to come back in your 17U year and win like pretty easily and be able to dominate. Did that feel good to kind of come back and be able to do that?
Oh, it felt great just because I knew last year we screwed up. This year was definitely a redemption season. And just to do it so easily, it just felt great. Like you deserve to be on top.
Right. And nationals, for once, usually I think 17U doesn't have nationals, right? But you guys were able to have one.
No, we
Oh, you guys,
we did
no,
the
you guys played
18.
18. You guys played 18 nationals.
Yeah.
So again, right, your second time being able to win nationals the year up, and this time with someone who was your teammate for the first time this season.
Yeah.
Did that bring you a lot of excitement going into your 18U season, knowing that you just won beach nationals a year up with someone that like you're going to be playing with a lot next season?
Yeah, I was really excited just because this was going to be our last season and just coming off a fresh win. I felt like we had all the momentum that we needed to take this throughout the whole entire year.
Right. And before we get into your 18U year, I want to talk about like one of the coaches you've had, right? I'm going to name a couple of coaches, and you can just give me your thoughts and opinions on them, and how they like one thing they helped you, like one skill or area they helped you develop in.
Yeah, for sure.
The first one is Kelly Smith.
Kelly, he was my first coach for not like my first club coach that I've ever had. And he just taught me that whole entire like basics mean everything. So we straight from 13U, it didn't matter how hard we swung. It was just perfect passing, perfect serving. That's all we focused on, and it helped a ton. And from that, from what I've taken from him, no matter what basics you have, as long as they are as good as anyone else's, you can always make a team.
Right. Another one is Jesse, right? You spent a lot of time with Beach with Jesse, and we'll talk about Jesse as an indoor coach after. But first, I want to talk about him as a beach coach.
Yeah, Beach from Jesse, because Jesse was always at every single practice. He was always the one that was perfecting every little small shot that I did, because he saw that I had potential in beach, and he definitely utilized it. And he wanted to make me the best beach player as he possibly could, because he used to play beach.
Right.
So he knew what he was doing, and he just wanted to instill everything that he learned onto me.
Right. And the last coach I have for now is Leonard.
Leonard Krapp, he was the odd coach that came in a couple times a week, ex-Olympian coach, and he taught me moves in beach volleyball, which I still use to this day, like the deep cross-court jumbo right over the defender's head. He taught me exactly how to read a ball, how to trick the person attacking so you can get a good dig. He was just teaching all like the Olympic knowledge that you don't usually learn until later on when you play beach volleyball for a couple of years, right from a young age. So I knew how to go and perfect it.
Right. And now we'll talk about your 18U year, right? 18U season, you guys are like you guys obviously you guys had a lot to prove, right, after the season you guys just had, and you guys were able to get guys like Nick and Sakib back. I think the biggest addition you guys were able to get was Cole, right? And Cole had just won an 18U national championship the year before. What were your expectations going into your 18U season?
My expectations was that we needed to win. It was nothing else. There's nothing else that we really cared about. It was just winning, winning, winning.
Right.
Because this was our final year. It didn't matter if we won. It was close or by a long shot. No one will matter. They'll just remember if you won or if you lost. So that's what was going in my head.
And all season, I don't think you guys lost a tournament all year leading up to provincials.
I don't think we did.
Yeah. So going into provincials, right? You guys are undefeated. You guys are feeling good, and you guys get matched up with Georgetown in the provincial finals, rather than Storm, right? Which is what you're usually used to. Yeah. Did it feel weird to not be playing Storm in the finals?
It definitely did, because Storm is more of a bigger physical team, and so we had a game plan how to go and beat them. But then Georgetown is more of a scrappier defensive team, which was like the same as our team mostly. So we had to figure out different ways how to score, not just go and abuse the block on Storm's high blocks. We had to go and get the ball to the ground as much as possible.
Right. And you guys won that game pretty handily. But of course, we talk whenever we talk about a great 18 team, we always talk about, well, did they win a national championship, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe drove your team a little bit more, just to work harder at practice?
Oh, for sure, because right from the start, Jesse told us this year isn't going to be for the guys that are going on to play university ball afterwards. This is for the guys that might not go and play university ball, and this might be their last chance to play volleyball.
Mhm.
This is the chance to go and prove it to them. It's not to prove it to yourself, but to the guys that might not play volleyball again.
Right.
So that motivated our team so much that we had to go and get that win.
Right. And national finals game point, right? You guys are playing Georgetown again.
Yeah,
And you're supposed to be up to serve, but Georgetown calls a timeout.
yeah.
What's going through your mind during that timeout?
I think it was just get this serve over with enough power to put them a bit out of position, because if that happens, we can always go and get a dig and transition it into a point for our final point.
Right. And it ended up being an ace, right?
Yeah.
What were the feelings like to win and kind of know that you guys won the last club tournament that there would be for your age group?
It was bigger than any national championship I've won, just because this was going to be the last one with the guys on my team, because I grew up with them essentially all the way from grade 7 to grade 12, meeting
Yeah.
with them 3 times a week at least. So just to go and win it with them at the very end, it just felt like everything came around full circle. We won at the beginning, we won at the end, and this was it.
Right. And you guys had Jesse and Dave, right, as your two indoor coaches.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the two of them as your indoor coaches?
Pardon?
What can you speak about to the two of them as your indoor coaches, like something that you were able to learn from them?
Well, I definitely learned that Jesse's not just a beach coach. He had so much knowledge about indoor, what to do, and like certain situations under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It just made our team that much like mentally stronger, because he put us in certain situations during practices that would prepare us for those tight games where we were at the disadvantage the whole entire time.
Right. And how about Dave?
And with Dave, he was probably one of the smartest coaches in terms of scouting reports that I've ever seen.
Right.
He saw every minor detail, every minor habit that someone on the other team would do, so that when we actually came to the game, when we had to play them, we were 100% prepared. And if we just did what he told us to do, it would be an easy game for us.
Right. And looking at your 18U team, right, a debate that we have often on here is who's the greatest 18U team of all time the club's had. And the ongoing debate has been 2008 versus 2018. Why does your team deserve to be in the conversation?
I think our team deserves it just because our team's defense was, I think, unparalleled to a lot of other teams. We were so scrappy. We always got the ball up, and we could recycle almost every ball that was given to us. We wanted to win more than almost any other team, and we were prepared to do that any way possible.
Right. So in a 5-set match, who wins, 2019 or 2018?
I honestly think it would be us, because back in our 17U year, we actually started winning against the 18U team a couple of times.
Right.
So if we take what we were in 18U compared to them in 18U, I think we would win.
Right. And then the comparison from you guys to 2008.
I think that would be a bit more difficult, because on the 2018, there's a couple of guys that were just flying with 45-inch verticals.
Yep.
And with Jesse's team.
Yeah.
So it would definitely be interesting. I haven't watched enough game tape on them.
For sure.
But it would definitely be a really good game.
Right. And this year you finished your first year at McMaster.
Mm-hmm.
What was something you were able to take away from Dave Preston?
The biggest thing is that your time will come, and when your time comes, you just got to go and prove it. For like the first half of the season, I was out because I was feeling a bit sick.
Right.
And then for the second half, I really had to prove myself, because I didn't really have a chance to prove myself. So every time I would go in, whether it is to play left side or to be a serving specialist, I always went to I made every moment count.
Right. And this year you guys were able to be a part of I guess that McMaster Trinity Western rivalry.
Yeah.
First year. What was that like preparing for those two games that you guys played them in the Burge gym?
It was definitely intense, just because I've never played anyone from Trinity Western before.
Right.
But I was going into it with the mindset as they're just another team. Who says we can't lose? Who says we can't beat them?
Right.
Just because they beat us in the past, they didn't beat me in the past.
Right.
So I brought that mentality onto the court when I went onto the court.
Yeah.
And we ended up winning, hopefully, luckily, 2 games twice in a row.
Yeah.
So,
And I guess my last 2 things for you are just what would be some advice you'd give to a younger athlete that's maybe starting up volleyball?
the younger athlete, just work on the basics as much as possible. Work to perfect your serve receive, your free ball passing, and your serving. With those 3 things, you can definitely make it far in volleyball on any team.
Right. And my last thing for you is, what are some future goals that you have?
Some future goals for me is to definitely make the starting lineup at McMaster.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when that will happen, but hopefully it happens sooner than later.
Right.
And to make the national team and represent my country.
Right. And that's awesome. Would you ever consider coming back to the club and trying to coach once you're a little bit older?
If I have the time, for sure, like if I take a gap year.
Yeah.
But I still don't know what I'm thinking of in terms of job-wise.
For sure.
If I'm just trying to go straight into the workforce, if I'm trying to take a year off.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'll know further down in the road.
For sure. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm sure I'll see you again because I'm pretty sure we're going to play indoor tomorrow if you're able to come.
For sure.
But yeah, we'll talk later. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. See ya.
Easy.
All right, guys. Keep a lookout on the Instagram page, and we'll let you know who's on next week, Wednesday.